Dale, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
I'll put my glasses on for this one. All right. So Dale gave us a 30-second update on what to anticipate, so, for this
Oh, okay,
coming year,
great.
But I
which is
said
part of a bigger conversation.
You're the professional. I said you're the professional.
Just that the increase was much more, modest this year in
Yes, it
assessed
is,
value.
actually,
What does that mean?
as you know, in 2016, we did the reassessment, and we had a pretty good increase. Since 2016, every roll year after that, we've been maintaining full value by doing ratio analysis based on sales and adjusting the neighborhoods, small percentages to bring the assessment to reflect market value. So we did that in 17, 18, and 19. In 2020, which is for next year, we started doing a reappraisal, and I will give you a quick update on that after I talk to you about this year's roll. So for the 2019 roll, we did, again, ratio analysis, and there was a much smaller number of neighborhoods that needed adjustment compared to other years. In fact, there was six neighborhoods that were changed, 5 were increased. The highest increase was 3%, and 1 was increased by 1%.
Can you point me to where you're looking at this data?
Well, no, actually, I didn't
Okay.
bring the neighborhood adjustment, but.
But these are the properties, so when I'm looking at this,
No, what are you looking at that, I will explain that is different.
so I'm confused
So
myself, all right.
if you look at the first set of
This,
papers
okay.
that I gave you, this is the results, the total results of the rolls, and I highlighted in yellow the difference from last year's roll to this year's roll, which is approximately a $15 million increase in taxable assessed value, which is less than what had been in prior years. Of course, that is because the market is changing. Not all the neighborhoods went up in value. Some did, and in fact, one we adjusted down. So as a result, you only have like a $15 million increase in taxable assessed value as compared to the 2018 roll.
Which was?
The 18 roll, I don't know exactly what was the increase, but the prior roll totals is right there. The prior roll, current roll, and the difference. And then it's broken down the upper part by property classes, residential, commercial, and the lower portion by roll section, taxable, state-owned land, special franchise, utilities, etc.
I have a question for you. So I'm looking at the description part where it says the parcels. For the prior year, we have 5,190, and then for the current, we have 5,177.
That is a reduction in parcels
How does that happen?
due to merging of parcels.
Okay.
Where you take 3 parcels and merge them into 1 parcel.
Okay.
Some property owners that for years have been receiving 2 bills because they had a home on 1 parcel and a garage on a parcel next door. We joined those parcels.
Did any of this happen because some revenue producing parcels became not-for-profit parcels?
The changes in taxable versus to non-taxable, you will see it down all the way down here in the wholly exempt category.
Okay.
Okay, so we had an increase in exempted parcel of about $7 million. The majority of that was the IFCA exemption on the property.
So we've had an increase from 249 parcels to 263
63
parcels
parcels.
wholly exempt.
Yes,
So there are more parcels not collecting the revenue.
that is correct, yes.
Yes.
And you,
So-
Was in the ESCA property?
Yeah, the IFCA properties that
Oh, okay.
applied for the exemption as a non-for-profits, and they were exempted. Yes.
Okay, I must have missed that
Yeah.
when I left, so I didn't know.
So, and And of course, the shift from road section 1, which is taxable, to any of the other road sections. So, in other words, if you look at the wholly exempt, where you had 249 parcels the prior year, now we have 263 wholly exempt parcels, and hence the increase in exempted value of
Right.
7 million.
Yeah, so,
7.8.
yeah, so I think it looks like the numbers are much more, have to do with becoming exempt rather than merging. In our
Yeah,
case,
it's more-
maybe that's not the case of some years, but we went down by 13 taxable properties and we went up by 14, and then we have this one, what's the utilities, non-CEIL railroad?
Utilities non-city railroad, that would be
I don't know.
Con Edison, for example. So that is always a change, and that data comes from the State Utility Advisory Appraisal Unit. Whenever the utility adds to their infrastructure, we get the information, and we add them to the roll.
Right, and
Or remove
they're
them
exempt,
to the
unlike our water treatment facilities in the town, these are exempt.
No,
Then
no.
why-
Utilities are taxable.
Then why did our assessed value go down by $1.1 million on that?
The utility valuation is done by the state, and it's
Oh.
based on the cost approach, which is cost of construction minus depreciation, so.
So, okay,
It
so
basically reflects the depreciation on
So-
those assets.
they actually have one more parcel and they went down by over $1 million in value
Yes.
because they were reassessed. Okay,
Yes.
all right.
So, I know it was last night, but tell me again, because I do this every year. If I did a pie chart, the taxable is mostly houses, private homes?
Yeah, most of the taxable, as you can see on the upper part, the 200 category is residential, which is single family.
And what
Two.
percentage of the housing in Austin would that include?
Well, and it says right.
Well, the residential non-condo is the largest portion of the taxable roll.
Which
That would be
is-
1, 2, and 3 family.
which
Once
is
you
what
go to
percent?
411, which is 4 families and up, that's in the commercial sector. In Ossining, because the condos are valued based on the income approach as if
Mhm.
they were commercial properties, they are included in the 400 commercial
Right.
category here.
Oh, so this includes condos?
That includes condo,
The
yes.
tax-
Condos are 411,
Mhm.
same category as apartments, except that the ownership code is a condo instead of
And just because it's a recurring discussion in our
Yes.
community, homesteads is dead for now?
a.
'Cause it never came to us. And
No,
it sounded
basically,
like they decided-
basically, as it stands right now, and as it was explained to the residents with the data mailer that was sent for the reappraisal of 2020, the town board as currently constituted does not have any plans to consider Homestead for the 2020 roll. So, in that respect, for 2020 is dead, but future boards, as long as we're doing reassessment, will have the option to reconsider it.
Okay, thank you. That's interesting because when it first came up, we were told that the only time to make it happen was when we were doing the reassessment, but because now we're
Right.
staying at 100% valuation, it can happen, it can become a conversation for a future board. But for
Absolutely, yes.
2020, it's irrelevant.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
And it wouldn't come to us, just for anybody.
Well, could
Yeah,
you
the
find-
first-
It wouldn't come to us until the town makes a decision. We couldn't possibly consider it unless they did enable it, right?
Yeah, the first step would be for the town board to consider it and approve it, and then all the other taxing jurisdictions, the villages and the school district, will have to also adopt it.
Okay.
Of course, you know, the homestead tax policy option would be insignificant unless the school adopted it, since the school is the largest portion of our tax burden, so,
So, again, to answer my question,
yes.
if you don't wanna do it now, just send me an email, what percent of the taxes come from single homes in the village, as a proportion of the total?
50%. Yeah.
Okay. And vacant land is described as what?
300 category?
Yeah, what is vacant land, what is vacant land? Because we have a group that's actually looking at, green space, and open space, and a bunch of things. What is the definition of a vacant?
Vacant land is a parcel that does not have any living units or improvements. So 311 is just vacant land with nothing on it. Vacant land with a shed would be vacant with improvement, 312.
Okay,
So, but it's still considered vacant
but
land.
somebody owns it,
Yes,
somewhere somebody owns it.
yes.
Okay, got it.
So what is public service? 800.
Public services are the properties owned by the municipalities.
What do we increase by one?
Yeah, I don't understand some of it.
The,
1%, right?
No.
No.
No,
One
one
parcel.
property, one parcel. So.
That's going the wrong direction.
I know.
So I should probably have the EAC contact you as well, because I'm not sure your definition in there is actually lining up as far as the definition of vacant and all that other stuff, so they're gonna call you.
Yeah,
Sure
I
that
have had
they-
communications in years past with which
That
I
was with the
provided.
town, that was with the town, the village EAC will call you, because I just realized they're going and doing stuff, but they really need to speak to you.
We're doing an open space inventory
Yeah.
as a land use board,
That's-
so
yeah.
it would be beneficial for them to.
Well,
understand
I
what
think,
that-
from what I know, they usually not only look at vacant parcels, but they look at parcels that have a significant amount of land,
Yes.
such as one house on 50 acres, you know, there's a lot of significant vacant land, so. But yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
any information I can provide.
This is good, no, I made a note for myself,
Yes.
thank you.
Because migrating birds don't know if it's private property.
Oh, no.
They might land in the tree that was private.
Imagine if they did.
And could you just remind me, because I just can't remember, cemeteries, there's not-for-profit cemetery, how do cemeteries fit into this?
Cemetery is in one of the property classes here.
Okay.
There
which
are-
would be-
As you can see, about 1,000 property classes, which are grouped, you know, like the 700 is industrial. There are different type of industrial properties.
Excuse me, Fernando, which description is it under? The
700.
700, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah,
So it's
okay,
under industrial,
I'm sorry?
it's under industrial, cemeteries.
No, I'm saying it's one of these, I think cemetery will be under community services,
So 600.
600, most likely.
Okay.
We have a lot of them, and I know some are for-profit, some are right, there's different ownership of cemeteries there. Another-
Well, we have a few, but not that many cemeteries.
Not a lot, right?
I guess,
Same
it
as
doesn't
in
matter.
town.
Not a
I
lot,
mean,
no.
I'm just-
Sparta and Dale are both in the village, even though there's
Two,
town.
right? Just two?
Yeah, the village.
And then the one that are owned by the church.
Yeah, but part of Sparta is not in the village too.
Right,
In the village?
Yeah.
all right, I'm just getting clarification.
It's part of my
I
work.
guess I just need to understand what some of these
Any
are.
other questions?
And every
you
year
can-
I ask the same thing, it's
You
great.
can always email me.
I will.
45 minutes there. to learn
Okay.
about the history.
So every year, we
That's weird.
produce the roll. Citizens have an opportunity to file a grievance if they do not agree with the estimate of value on the property. That happens in June.
Look at the tree.
And the bar reviews the grievances, renders an opinion whether they should be decreased or not. And then, in addition to that, if they're not satisfied with the results of the bar, which is the administrative review, they can always seek judicial review by filing a small claims with the courts for residential properties, owner-occupied residential properties, and for commercial properties, they can file an Article 7 certiorari. So the next page is where I track all that. And I have a history there since 2012. But if you look at the last three columns, this is the results of 2019, the 2019 roll. The first line is grievances, where we had 449 last year, same as in 2018. The highlighted in gray is the villages. As you can see, the village had 193, which is a 26% decrease in grievances, which which is good. The village of, and then you can see in red is the village of Briarcliff and then the town outside. And as I mentioned, if they do not, if the resident is not satisfied with the actions of the bar, then they can seek judicial review, and the residential properties file a small claim, a SCAR. And as you can see, for the townwide, we had 251 SCARs filed this year, of which for the villages we had 101, which is a 2% decrease in the number of SCARs. Most of the SCARs are filed by these assessment review companies. Most of the grievances and SCARs are filed by these assessment review companies that blanket the area with letters promising tax reductions. Which, by the way, as you can see, many of these, as we are dealing with there are two large companies that file a large number here in the town of Austin, and most of them, after they file the SCAR, withdraw anywhere from 60 to 70% of their cases because they have no merit. So, of those, our attempt is to try to settle or go to trial on those small claims prior to December, so that they do not become a refund if we need to adjust the assessment. So the search, the third line in the middle is the search, which is the commercial certiораries. So this year, townwide, we had 128 certiorari cases. The case is one parcel. Each parcel is a case, which is a 13% increase from the prior year. The village of Ossining had 64 search, which is the same as we had last year. And pretty much is the same property.
I was gonna say, is it exactly the same
Yeah.
ones? Because don't they do when they do a
Most
multi-year
often
thing?
it's the same property, so every year, I take the new certs, I bring them into the list of active certs that we have from prior years, which is what this represents.
Oh, this is certs, okay.
So, and then I total them to see how it compares to prior years. So total active certs, meaning the new certs that we got for 19 plus the ones that we have pending from prior years, we have a total in townwide of 582, of which 303 are for the village of Ossining properties, which is a reduction of 18% as compared to last year. And then, of course, if you see the other lines, we have the school districts, Ossining and the Briarcliff School District on the town side and the village of Briarcliff matter. But it's good to see that the village of Ossining has a 6% reduction in total number of outstanding certs as compared to last year. This is the list of certs of properties that are active that we have to deal with. The ones that are highlighted are the ones that we are in the courts with, and we expect to settle them or have them dismissed within the next year. As you can see, some of these go back quite a few years, such as Ossining River Associates, goes back to 2005. The vacant land behind the Snowden house.
It's the
I
failed-
understand
it's
that
the
in
failed
trying to work
program.
out a deal for a proposed project with possibly gaining access to
Right.
the village, but I haven't had a chance to talk to,
Last I heard, they were doing an environmental impact, a draft environmental impact statement. That was like a lot longer ago than it should have been if they were actually actively doing that, so. it's-
so there's still hope there that we may reach an agreement and then all this can go away. Because about, 3-4 years ago, the attorneys asked us to ask the judge to not push the issue, to allow the parties
Yeah, they
to
need they're changing a zoning regulation, it is the zoning to go from the least density to the most density to accommodate their vision of what could be there.
What could be
And,
there.
they were gonna do an environmental impact study that, might help inform any decision that we would make that could be, part of our comprehensive plan decision-making. To this point, I have not heard any update from them, so they're not making their case that it's a good idea for us to change that zoning at this point as part of our comp plan, unless there's something I don't know. I'm looking at you, Karen, is there anything I don't know about that?
That is an accurate summary of the status.
Okay.
Well, there will come a point where the judge will start pushing, because as you can imagine, they're trying to clear the calendar. Westchester County, unfortunately, to the advantage of the petitioner's attorney, this backlog of cases basically plays into their advantage, because they're able to accumulate 3 or 4 years at issue and then pay for an appraisal to come up with a number that we have to go and spend money defending the assessment by doing an appraisal. So we're hoping to clear the backlog. My dream is that all the cases that come up every year should be settled prior to the next roll, but
Doesn't quite work out.
it hasn't worked out. So going back to this chart, this is the history since 2012, and you can see the fluctuations. Of course, in 2016, as you can see, was the reappraisal year, and we had a high number of grievances, and then it's been diminishing pretty much every year after that. One thing that is important to point out, that although we still have about 500 cases, the amount of refunds have diminished, because of course the assessments are more reflective of market value, so there is less differences to fight for. And the settlements are showing that the required refunds, of course, are diminishing. On the other hand, my budget for appraisal to fight these cases, I've had to ask for an increase, because we have to defend the law more aggressively. We have some cases, in fact, like 1516 James Street. We're in the process of exchanging appraisal reports through the courts, and that should be settled in the next couple of months. If we don't reach an agreement, then we'll have to go to trial. And that's the process.
So I had a couple of questions, and I didn't want to interrupt, but I'm curious. You said there were 6 neighborhoods where the assessed value changed, 5 that went up and 1 that went down. Can you tell me what those neighborhoods are?
This chart, which I didn't print it, basically shows the changes from every year, 17, 18, 19, and the neighborhood that
Can I
went.
just copy that chart?
Sure, I'll give you this.
Can you send us a PDF?
I can email it to all of you.
That would be great.
Thanks.
But the neighborhood that went down by 1 point is the neighborhood number 13, which is Scarborough, Ossining School District. Last year it had gone up by 1%. This year for the 19 roll, it went down by. You can pass this around. The one neighborhood that increased the most was Indian Village, I think.
That area?
Indian Village.
So that's driven largely by the market, though.
Oh, yes,
Because
it's sold by
you're-
the market, which,
Because the market for houses under $500,000 is pretty hot right now.
it's still strong. The market that we are seeing a decline in value, of course, is the market, the homes that are affected by the new tax rules, where
Yes.
the deduction is capped at 10,000. So the higher end homes over $1 million are seeing a larger reduction in value
So this is
and
just
longer
reflective of
term
larger
to
economy.
sell.
Absolutely.
Yes. But if you see the chart, Indian Village, which is 400
Yeah,
Yeah,
to
it's
500 range,
Mhm.
it went up by 3% last year.
Yeah.
There's a strong demand for that.
Everybody wants those 2,000 square foot houses.
Yep. Suburbia, it's best.
Well, some people.
Any other question on that, before I give you a quick update on the reappraisal?
Oh, okay, I didn't realize, okay, then my last, question to close the loop on the previous conversation, and maybe it's not you, maybe it's Tom or Dale. What parcel did the village gain this year?
It went from, we increased one parcel, would that be the way a parcel was determined? Because I don't know of anything that,
I'll have to check, it most likely is a split, where a large parcel was split.
That's-
in
that's
parcel.
what-
Oh, you know
Why
what?
would the
You know
municipal
what,
government?
on North Highland, Cedar,
No, we're talking about public service.
No, there was one increase of village-owned property,
okay.
right?
The public service.
Probably the 800 category,
800
we gained the
Yeah.
parcel, I don't want
Okay,
it.
I'll-
I'd like to
I'll-
find out if you guys can look into
Yeah,
that.
sure, I'll find out, like, when was it? No, the
Till we took over.
prior year's road, when the
We're in a-
Harbor Square did it to the village, the two parcels surrounding the.
Yeah, but that was.
That was 2 years ago.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm just wondering what it was.
Yeah, I'll email it to you.
Thanks. Yeah.
we're gonna make sure we're using it.
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes we discover properties that we didn't realize that it's a funny little area, like Liberty.
Or underwater.
Hey, we could just wait till the water absorbs more of our property and then that's that, that's one way to get the cost to go down.
So in 2016, we did a reappraisal, for the first time in 40 plus years. As I mentioned, every year we've been maintaining full value by doing ratio analysis based on sale and increasing the neighborhoods, based on what the sales, shows, as compared to the assessment. So based on the plan that we have in place and agreed to with the state of New York, which by the way monitors and is always involved in this process, this year, I'm sorry, for the 2020 roll would be the 5th year, and we need to do a reappraisal. A reappraisal basically is a systematic review of every property, to make sure that the inventory is correct. The first step we did is we took the 2018 flyover by the county, which is provided to us via pictometry, and we compare it to our footprints of the building, our sketches, to determine if there was any large discrepancies of 10% or more. When we did that, we came up townwide with 360 properties, and that was the first group of properties that got inspected. We sent them a letter, and of course, we're doing it with Tyler Technologies. They went out there to inspect them. Every property owner, residential property owners, also received a data mailer. The first one was the Village of Ossining, asking the residents to review the inventory that we have on our records to correct any discrepancies. So if, for example, we show that you have a 3-family and you only have a 2-family, they will bring that to our attention, or that we have 2 bathrooms and they have 3, any of those discrepancies. So we have been doing that. We've been getting a very good response from all the residents. So we are in the process of looking at that, and certain things such as we show that they had 3 bathrooms and they say we only have 2, we contact them to ask for an inspection. Or, for example, we show that they have a finished basement and they say, no, I do not have a finished basement. So we will also inspect those. Now the process will be, now we are updating the data, making sure we have the accurate information. That also involves building permits, removing structures if they're demolished, or adding decks, additions, etc. And then we will go into the evaluation process with the goal that in March of 2020 we will send to the resident a new determination of value. And the process will be similar to the 2016 reassessment, where they will have an opportunity to, if they are in disagreement, they would have an opportunity to meet with a Tyler appraiser to discuss their new value for 2020. So we refer to that as the informal review, because in addition to that, every year, as required by law, they will also have the opportunity that if they're still not satisfied, that they can seek administrative review by the bar, by the Board of Assessment Review, and eventually, if they're still in disagreement, seek judicial review through the courts. It'll be the same process as 2017. This process, since when we did the first reassessment in 2016, most of the properties were inspected, so we only needed to review the ones where we find discrepancies. So it is going a lot smoother. Of course, it's not as invasive, but as you know, by the number of calls or complaints, you know, not everyone is willing to cooperate. But the idea here is to try to maintain the roll accurate, and accurate I mean by making sure that we have the correct information so that we can determine the correct values. Any questions on the?
So I have a question on that one, and I guess a little bit of process. So let's say that I receive a letter from Tyler saying that you do have a 3-family and a 2-family. It's a 2-family. At some point of time, 2017, you guys inspected our property, or Tyler inspected our property and determined that it had 3 bathrooms instead of 2, correct? So now, when you send a letter and saying, and the homeowner is saying, no, I only have 2 bathrooms. So you guys try to attempt to make an appointment. If the homeowner refuses to make that appointment, what is the assumption in your office?
Well,
Do you guys keep it as a 3-bathroom? Or
Yes.
do you keep it as a 2-bathroom?
yes. If a situation like that arises, particularly a discrepancy such as a bathroom or
Or
3-family to a
kitchen?
2-family,
Right.
first of all, we check with the building department to see what they have on record. If we're not able to make a determination well, which is correct, we also check, if the property is sold recently, we will look at the sales transaction, which many times is listed in the multiple listing service to see what they show, whether it has 2 or 3 bathrooms. If we still are not able, with a degree of certainty that the claim that it only has a 2-bathroom, we have 3, then we would leave it as a 3-bathroom, if the person refuses an inspection,
Well,
to allow us in.
would you make that, when something like that happens, is that a red flag that you will have to inform the building department?
Well, when we have a discrepancy like that, such as a bathroom, the first step is to make sure to see what is the legal occupancy, what does the building department have? And, you know, many times through that, we can see the building department, we only show 2 bathrooms, like the owner said, but then if I see that we did an inspection on 16 and we witnessed 3 bathrooms, then I'm not gonna change it unless they allow us to inspect.
So what happens on,
Now, bear in mind that in 2016, we got into 65% of the
I
properties.
was gonna ask you.
So there are a number of properties that we didn't get in, so we will take that into consideration. Because many times these discrepancies happens in properties that did a total refusal in 16. Remember, in 16, we sent letters out. We had data collector attempt twice, knock on the door, and then after the second attempt, we sent a request asking them to call in to make an appointment. And still, there are a number of properties that they do not want
Is
to
it fair-
participate.
yeah, is it fair to say that the same amount that happened in 2016 may happen now?
No, I think, since we are sending the data mailer, I think we're getting a very good participation on the data mailer. But I suspect there will be the same number many of the same property owners that did not participate or allow are gonna do the same this year. You know, the misconception is that, you know, that if they allow an inspection, maybe, you know, the way I look at it, maybe they have inventory that is not legal. But of course, we cannot confirm that, and we do confirm it when the property sells. As you know, whenever someone puts the property on the market, they have to, all of this information is reconciled because the realtors, the appraisers, the title companies will report on any discrepancy on what is it, what is the legality in the building department record versus what they see, you know. So many times you see that people are going to the building department to legalize bathrooms or finish basements after the fact, so that they can sell the house.
So, if you have all those data points, are you able to get subpoenas to go into the homes?
No,
Because that's not enough information?
no, the court has ruled again and again that the assessors, if the resident is within the right not to allow an interior inspection. So the law also clearly states that then the assessor's office can utilize any other information
Oh, I see,
to
in
try
lieu
to
of that,
achieve.
in lieu of that,
yes.
you can use all this other
Yeah.
data. Okay.
I have several other questions, not sort of related to this, but I'll stop by your office.
Yes, stop by or send me an email. That's okay. And by the way, you know, every time, every year we try to run up a list of property class changes and provide it to the building department. So that if, remember, we assess based on what we see. If we see a house with 2 kitchens and we deem it a 2-family, it doesn't necessarily mean that that is a legal 2-family. The legality of that is the building department, the ones that determine whether.
But you will assess it as a
We
two-family,
will
so they
assess
will
it
be
as a
paying the
two-family.
proper taxes for how it may or may not be utilized,
Correct.
and then if the building department
Yeah,
wants
we
to follow up
assess-
on that, that's a different process.
Yeah, assessment is based on use, as per New York State law, so, you know, if the property is used as a single-family residence in the middle of a very busy commercial district, and the value of a single-family residence is only minuscule compared to the potential value for commercial development, is based on use, we have to assess
So let me ask you
based
this,
on what is being used.
so many years ago, it was, in single families, and I think some towns, they still have that as a mother and daughter setup.
Yes,
So they have 2 kitchens.
yes.
How do you assess a single family house with 2 kitchens that are set up? And
It's
even in some
legal-
municipalities.
It is
they
legal
still have
in the town outside. and-
No, that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
but the city of Peekskill many years ago, literally just, they took that terminology out of their code
Yeah.
because it was creating problems. So there are some single-family house within the village that have that. So how do you determine as a
How is it
single-family
assessed?
house?
That's
or
an
is that a
accessory
two-
apartment, that's a 215 property class. 210 is single family, 215 is a single family with an accessory apartment.
Do we collect
And
more
it's
taxes for
usually
that?
accessory apartments is for family occupancy,
Correct.
not for,
Not for rental.
not for
purpose.
rental, yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
But, you know, how do you monitor
Got
that
it.
is
Correct.
very.
So how do you determine that? That's sort of my question. My
Well,
question is, how do
in
you
my
determine-
town where I live now, which I moved there 2 years ago, town of Clarkstown in Rockland County, they allow second kitchens for family occupancy, and the applicant has to sign an affidavit with a list of the family members that are living.
You
But
mean like a
even at
registration?
that, how do you monitor that? How do you know?
But correct, and it goes back to the question, when your office
Right.
goes back, how do they determine if it's, because I could say it's my family lives downstairs. My whole family lives here and we just have a second kitchen. How do you determine that is the truth? How
How
do you
do
determine that it's
the-
a single-family house and not a two-family?
How do you
house?
determine whether it's a 215, we mean a single family with an accessory apartment versus a 220, which is a two-family? First, we look at the number of meters. If you see 2 meters, electric meters, you know, you see that the utilities are split in some way, most likely is a two-family. Typically, when you have an accessory apartment, and we do have quite a few of those in the town outside, that's a permitted use, and we have received building permits, and they've done it, you know, legally. Whether the family lives there or not, that's not our purview. That's more the building department, and again, I don't see how they could make a determination. But we use, you know, you can see also the way it's set up, with, you know, access, whether it has separate access, or whether they go in through the same entrance door. So,
I mean, you can have two, I mean, you can have a direct access from the first floor down to the basement, and the basement can have another outside
some-
door, so it's like, to
Some
me, it's
families
a,
like
it's
to
a.
have that downstairs.
Yeah,
I mean,
typically-
I have neighbors right down the street from me, and
Because-
I've been to both of their doors, and it's the same family members, I get their signatures every year. They use the summer kitchen, it goes right out to their front terrace,
Right,
and
yeah.
like, it's
That's
legitimately
not
mother,
just-
daughter, son,
Right.
you know, it really
yeah,
is.
typically for a
Yeah.
215, which is a single family with accessory apartment, it has to have access through the interior, a shared, you know, access,
Okay.
not totally separated. When it's
So
totally
how many-
separated,
Do we
most
have
likely-
do you have a list, a breakdown of 215 somewhere?
Not here, but I can get you that.
Would you
yeah,
mind?
Absolutely.
Just
That'll
curious
be
how-
just interesting to see
Yeah.
how much do we have that in our buildings.
And then, and how often do you, is that compared to what the building department has? So
we
you
send them
call
a-
it a 215, but they deem it a 220.
We send them a list of changes in property class from one year to the next. You know, in 16, when they did the reassessment, we had quite a few, but now there's not that many. So,
Thank you. Do we have any final questions for Fernando? Because we are already halfway through now.
sorry.
The public allowed?
Fernanda, I just have one more question. So I understand the data points that you use, like multiple listing for valuations of the sales or things that get done. So people who are renting out pieces of their house and advertise, do you look at that as a data point? Because then now their house has a rental unit essentially, whether it's being used as a rental unit or not. And the way I heard you just said, shouldn't actually matter for taxation point of view, because in the same vein, that it doesn't matter whether you're using the mother-daughter that way. If you have, so if you advertise that you have 600 square foot with a closet and bedroom and whatever, do you look at rentals that go
We-
up on the internet and all that and then
No,
assess the
not in the
houses?
internet. Let me point out, I'm also an associate broker. I do have a broker's license, and I'm a member of the Hudson Gateway Association of Realtors and the MLS. The rules for MLS now, as of the last 3 years, you cannot, a real estate agent is barred from putting on the market an apartment that is not legal as per the building department rules and regulations. So if a family has a mother and daughter, and they wanna rent the downstairs, that is not a legal two-family, that agent would not be able to.
It doesn't have to be an
Posted in
agent, though.
MLS.
Fernando,
You could do it on Craigslist, but no, we don't monitor Craigslist or any of the other public website where people put rentals.
why not?
Because it would be impossible to monitor that, you know. I mean, a lot of communities are monitoring Craigslist or Airbnb because of the impact that those kind of rentals is having on certain communities. I did take a look at that a few years ago, but I didn't see that many Airbnb offerings here in the town of Boston.
You might wanna look at this again, and you may wanna look at people who are renting pieces of their homes as units, and whether they're actually renting them or not, from my perspective, you should be looking at it, because there are lots of them, and I get this stuff all the time sent to me, like this house over here is advertising, and to me, once they're advertising, I don't care whether they found someone or not, or whether they're collecting rent or not, once you say that you have, and it's illegal, because I looked up the zone, you should be doing that. Like, I shouldn't be the one doing this, you should. Your office should look, it's 2020, and your office should start looking not at realtors, but actually at people. I think Airbnb is very complicated, and in different communities in New York State, super complicated areas that like have, tourism and all, I think it's very complicated. But it is not complicated when somebody sells off pieces of their house and advertises it where I get these clips sent to me, and it says 600 square feet, separate entrance, I mean, it has the whole thing on it. And it's really not that difficult.
You
And in
will
this day and
see-
age, that's what I would be looking at.
I have looked at it, but you see more bedroom rentals on properties that are not boarding house or,
Right.
or, you see people trying to rent a room.
Yeah, well, rooms, units,
And that is,
basements,
you
garages,
know,
everything else.
But how do you determine that rental that someone is putting out, anyone can rent a single family,
I'm not talking about
you know, but someone that has, what you're saying is, if they do provide the address and you can check, if you can check the, you know, the legality, whether it's a single family and someone stay separate entrance downstairs of a race ranch, for example, that's typically what you see, then yes, you can look at it, but how, to determine whether it has an additional kitchen that we can add to the role based on that?
It's a kitchen
It
that
depends,
differentiates.
if there is pictures, yes, we could basically use that, if there is pictures that show clear evidence
Okay.
that there are kitchens and
I'm
bathrooms.
gonna have a separate conversation, it's not really that difficult, because if people can send it to me, then you guys can look at it. And from my perspective, it's, part of code enforcement, but it's
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
on you guys. And it's an issue of, you've just turned you can rent out the entire house, but when
Yeah.
you start creating these separate, incomes for yourself, then,
I think it's more of a code enforcement issue,
Yes.
if it's,
So,
if it's
yeah.
an illegal.
it's also
Kitchen.
revenue.
And this conversation is why I love budget meetings, and I would like to have twice as many hours for our budget meetings, but I think what we're discussing right now is both assessment, how can we financially immediately, or more quickly, address or, be compensated adequately, the community be appropriately compensated for the use of the property, and how can code enforcement, be involved in it. And Karen, I know you have some ideas, about things we can do in 2020 that are code enforcement related, and I think it's important when we move forward with that we involve the assessor's office to figure out how, from two fronts, we can be addressing these concerns better.
And, when you did the data points of all the housing, did you also look at the school rolls to look so you had multiple listing as a data point, you had, you stated 3 or 4 things, did you also have addresses from the school rolls?
No, to see how many people are registered
I don't
in
think
the house, no, we don't do that, that's not our, that's not part of
Yeah,
our.
it's not in the
That's not a, to
That's
me,
not
that's,
a-
so,
no.
that's something else that I think we can address with code enforcement and stuff like, to me, I just don't see the assessor's office looking into that
No,
kind of stuff.
that
The
wouldn't
rental
be-
and what you're saying,
Public information is.
We look at the school district,
But
It
it's
is.
out, it's
It is
outside
public
of the
information.
purview of
Correct, but it's
the
not-
assessors.
correct.
we look at school district based on, market value. We have streets where one side is one school district and the other side is a different school district, and the market value for the same house is drastically different. Our neighborhood delineation, of course, take into account school district. So we wouldn't mix one school district with the other because it's different market value, different market reaction to value. But going back to the idea, one last reminder, just because a property, a house becomes a 220, two-family, doesn't necessarily mean that it's more valuable than one
I think that's a
family.
really good point.
Many
Arguably, it could
many
be
times you
less,
find that in
Could be
a
less.
single-family zone, a
but
220, a two-family, legal two-family, commands a lower price than the other single families in the neighborhood.
correct.
So,
That's-
so
I mean, that's a very
people
interesting
assume that
point.
because you make
Right.
it a two-family or a three-family, that is an automatic increase in value, not necessarily.
It could go either way, is what
It
you're
could
saying.
go either way, yes.
It's not an automatic.
Yes.
All right, I mean, I will give you, I haven't spoken to you in months, so
No.
this, I always love these meetings.
My
for
office
this.
is always open.
I know it is, you're always available. I wasn't implying it otherwise, but I do have a few questions, and I know my time is up on the agenda with this, so, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Renee.
Thank you for
Have a
coming
good
out.
day.
You as well.